Who's this guy? Who's that guy? I have to whack it harder, man. Who's this guy?
He's so shy.
Oh, well,
How you doing, John?
Go for it.
okay.
There.
Citizens Involvement Committee will come together on Monday, May 6th, 2024. Dennis, would you call the roll?
Yes. We know Linda's here,
Yes.
followed by Dennis. Caulfield, Dan. Here. And Lisa.
Here.
Elyville, Carla. Is she out there?
Her and Dee Dee are going to be arriving a little bit late because they're over at the Pioneer Community Center
Right.
engaging with the Public Involvement Forum for the
saw
Parks
that.
Master Plan.
Yeah. Gaffney Lane, no rep. Hazel Grove, no rep. Hillendale, Sarah. Here. And Joss to my right.
Here.
You're surrounded.
Yes. McLaughlin, Denise. She must be over there also.
She's on
Denise?
vacation.
Denise
Yeah,
is
she's
actually
out
on
of
a road
town.
trip and can't connect, so she's not going to be here tonight.
Followed by Tim.
I am here.
Yes. Park Place, Steve.
Here.
And Bob LaSalle.
Here.
Yes. Rivercrest, Emily, is she virtual? Yeah.
No.
Okay.
With us anymore.
Yeah,
And-
she's off.
Okay. And then South End, we have William joining us. William?
Hi, William.
Good. And,
There's another individual from South End joining us too.
oh, yes, Mark. But his audio is off. Okay, but Mark's with us. Okay, great. Tower Vista has no rep, and Two Rivers, no rep. I think that's it.
Okay, Mr. Lewis, you're up. Public Works update.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been a while since I've been in front of the CIC. I don't think I've been here in 2024. So,
I don't think you have either. Nope.
although we've had others, Patty's been here. I think Josh came before you as well. So, you've received a little bit of public works information. And so, for those of you that are newer, at least newer to me, I usually go through a wide range of mostly project updates because that seems to be what you're all interested in. So I was going to go ahead and go through a range of those and some program updates as well that sometimes feel like projects, and some of which you'll know about, some of which are actually formed programs. Others are kind of proposed programs. So hopefully, and I'll try and get through it pretty quickly. It's not very, I would just, before I get started, I'll just note that Doug Whiteley's in the office. It's seldom that they put me in front of the fire department, so I feel really I feel, good about that. So anyway, I'm going to go through our capital improvement plans for 2024. Again, some program updates and other kind of project updates, and then talk a little bit about some of the grants that you may or may not have heard about, because some of them have been around for a while. So I put this on the presentation mostly because, it's the Public Works page, so why wouldn't I start with the Public Works page? And there's a nice message that I wrote there several years ago, I think still applies, but what I really wanted you to see is in that blue column on the left-hand side of your screen, and highlighted with a yellow dot next to it, is projects. And if you haven't dabbled in that part of the website, I encourage you to do so. It's pretty functional. You can actually get in there and search on different criteria, whether you want to know what the projects are of the year, if you want to know past projects, the past projects stay up there, different kinds of projects, whether they're capital projects or development projects, and or parks projects. We try and make it fairly easy for you to find that information, and we're working really hard. We're not 100%, but we work really hard to kind of keep our project pages up to date. There is a lot going on right now, and there's just a few of us that are doing those updates, so just keep that in mind. But this is where we try to keep a lot of information for folks. And I know not everybody wants to use the website, and a lot of people like social media. You get the more immediate kind of, the road's going to be closed on this particular day through social media. But if you really want to know the project and the project estimate and who to call about that particular project, maybe it's not clear based on the project name whether it's going to affect you or not, you should be able to go to the website and find it there. So just if you've got web access at all, and I know most of you in this room do, use it and check out those project pages and let us know if you see a project and it's not up to date, right? I don't cruise these pages as often as I should, so there may be projects out of date, but we're trying. Let's see if I can get this to go forward. Maybe you can push that forward for me by a slide. I'm not sure why it's not going. Oh, there it goes.
There. Try it now.
Okay, there we go. So one of our biggest programs, which involves many projects, is our sanitary sewer I&I program. And this map here shows coloring of a variety of neighborhood areas. And these aren't neighborhood maps. These are basin and sub-basin maps. So what we're depicting here is areas that we're most focused on. And I would say areas 10, 8, and 5 are most likely to see involvement by, I think I skipped a slide too, by the way, but I'll go back. But yeah, so if you live in those neighborhoods, Rivercrest has been hit pretty heavily with I&I rehabilitation, and we're moving our way, we've been in the Lynn Basin as well, we're moving our way into Basin 5, which is mostly McLaughlin neighborhood. And as you might imagine, it's mostly where the oldest pipes in the city reside. And what
Like
we're
in
doing,
my house.
like your
Yeah,
house
yeah, I
in
know.
particular, Tim, yeah. One of the reasons why we haven't done much with your road either, right? We want to get these utility lines taken care of. Yeah, so again, website's up here because the I&I program, I'm going to go through some of the projects before I go back to a page that I skipped, but we've got a lot of projects, and it's not always easy to just decipher based on the name of the project where we're talking about, but we've got a pretty big manhole rehab project, which actually goes in and, a person gets into the really access hole and uses chemical grout and some sprayed on liners to kind of rehab those to keep them dried up. So we're doing a bunch of that. Malala Avenue, we're in the bid phase right now for a section of Malala Avenue from really pretty close to Dutch Brothers at Division there on up the hill to Warner Parrott. And then Lynn Basins 1, 2, and 3, they kind of bounce all over the place. The best way, again, to get the specifics of where those locations are at is through our website, because there's maps associated with these as well. And then same thing with Rivercrest Basin. We've done most of the Rivercrest Basin already, but we have a lateral replacement program through our I&I program that includes work on private property. So if property owners opt in for that, we want to fix their laterals too, because in most cases, that's where most of our infiltration and inflow is coming from. And in the Rivercrest Basin, we did a lot of the work in the right-of-way before the commission approved that lateral replacement program. So we're going back to some of those and trying to fix those laterals. Before I get into drinking water, I just want to go back. I must have hidden a slide somehow. Well, there is, unless it's somewhere else in here, there is a slide that has a map on it that has got, it shows up in our trail news. I'm not sure. No, it's none of those. I know there's lots of maps in this presentation, but we have a map that shows all the city's project in the summer trail news. So it shows the summer 2024 construction projects and has them numbered and listed, and it's possible that,
It's slide 4, it's hidden.
Oh,
Good catch.
thank you, yeah.
how did that happen?
Right, if you right-click on it and go down to unhide slide.
I think that we changed this slide out because it had the 2023 construction projects in it, so that was quick. Thank you for fixing that. So again, this shows up in the trail news. It's a color fold out. I know all of you study the trail news, especially the public works pages. But if you're interested, we try to get all the main projects. There's also development projects that show up in this map as well. So if you want to know something about them, you can find them through the trail news. And again, you're going to find links to those most important projects that are on our webpage. But this kind of gives you a sense of where to expect some form of delay and destruction before we get into actual improvements. Okay, back on track. Drinking water, another key service that we provide, and we've been talking quite a bit about because we received a grant or loan. Actually, it's not a grant, it's a loan through the Water Infrastructure Finance and Innovation Act. This is a program that Patty spoke to you about, I think, at your last meeting, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, but that loan was a $16 million loan for a total capital improvement program of $33 million worth of improvements, and we're going to be doing that work over 5 years. That includes a lot of pipe replacement. And the first big project that's coming in is Malala, which I will get to, but really the benefits here are to protect our drinking water system and our reliability, especially during those peak demand periods where, you know, Oregon City has seen fire risk before. So we want to make sure that, you know, really most of the sizing that goes into a drinking water system is driven by fire demand. It's not necessarily how much you drink or flush. It's more based on how much fire demand you're going to need in your particular area. And because when they open those hydrants and they go to work on fire, especially wildfire, you're likely to see a lot of the system get tapped. So a lot of that $33 million worth of projects is going to be focused on better fire service in Oregon City. The thing I like about loans is it accelerates an investment. So Oregon City is generally a pay-as-you-go kind of a city. We don't go for much loans in Oregon City. In fact, our charter really prevents that unless we get a vote of the people. So we did get a vote of the people in this case. And to me, what I like about loans isn't the interest that you have to pay, because that is kind of the downside of it, but it's the fact that you can apply that funding to an investment that's going to last the community for 50 to 100 years, and you're going to pay that off. And not only are you going to pay it off, future residents are going to pay it off too. So because we're building it for both current and future residents. So I like that piece of it. And by doing a larger group of projects over a shorter period of time, we just save money for that. So we think that's a good reason too. And again, I went asleep for some reason. Why is this not moving forward? Thank you. So Malala Avenue between sewer and water, and then we'll follow all that up with paving, is going to be a bit of a challenge. And this water project is a 30-inch transmission main that goes really from the grocery outlet area. We've got a reservoir that sits right behind the grocery outlet. So that kind of blue, there's no pointer on this, is there? Or is there? So I'll show it on the screen here. For those of you that don't have screens, you'll have to turn around, or those of you that do have screens, you'll have to turn around. But yeah, that's our big reservoir up on the hilltop. And then, so we'll be taking water from that location and carrying it down to Beaver Creek, and we're gonna have to cross Beaver Creek Road. So when we built the last phase of Malala, when we had all that construction on Malala south of Beaver Creek Road, we put in pipelines down there, but we took the easy way out and we didn't cross Beaver Creek Road. Well, we can't take the easy way out twice. We got to cross Beaver Creek Road. So this is a big project that's coming to your service area, and we are going to do a pretty good job of trying to stay. Malala's a 3-lane section for the most part, so we're going to occupy one of those lanes and probably affect the other 2 lanes for sure. But you can anticipate a fair amount of upset with regard to traffic or walking, those kind of things. We'll do the industry standard with regard to getting traffic through there, but I just know that there's going to be times when you're going to be thankful for the new water improvement, but not so thankful for the inconvenience. Other projects, we've been working a lot in the Claremont area. This is about the last piece of the Claremont area, and I don't, so Claremont Road area and some of the side streets either around it. So we're about complete with that. The Holmes Lane water line, it seems like Holmes Lane has been under construction for about 4 years now, and we still got water to complete, and then again paving to do. But we need to replace the water main on Holmes Lane. And then another very, very big project is this Henrici pump station and transmission main, where we just selected a consultant. We're working through the scope of work with them to get a design fee for a design contract, but that'll take really a fair amount of transmission main along Beaver Creek Road out to our Henrici Reservoir, and we're going to build a new pump station out there. So big water projects for sure. Transportation projects, we've got both our resurfacing and preventative maintenance projects. You're generally familiar with preventative maintenance. I've got some slides on that, but that's kind of slurry seal, and we don't do chip seal anymore, but we do a couple other treatments like that. The Beaver Creek Road's all transportation safety project was along Beaver Creek Road from 213 to Warner Milne, and that project included signal system upgrades along the entire corridor, as well as fiber optic connectivity so that we can communicate a little bit better with those signals. And then the final piece to that, most of that work's been done. You've seen if the yellow backer plates on some of the signals, that's part of that project. There will be another element to that, which is actually on Highway 213, which is going to be a kind of a reader board warning signage when congestion's happening at Beaver Creek and 213, because we see a lot of rear end accidents on Beaver Creek and 213. So people are either charging up or charging down 213, and they're not paying attention for a variety of reasons, and so we see rear end accidents there. So this signage will help hopefully alert folks to the need to slow down as they come up the hill. The downtown quiet zone, that's actually yet to start design, but that's a project that ODOT's going to maintain at 10th, the railroad crossing at 10th, and also there's a pedestrian crossing at 11th. Those 2 crossings would be fixed with different drop gates and better signage and better sidewalks. And so there's a grant associated with that. But right now, ODOT is working on securing the consultant contract to complete the work, the design work. And then a big one that, Bob, is going to be in your neighborhood is this Holcomb Boulevard Safe Routes to School project. That's actually designed, bid, and about to start construction. We've actually worked with PGE on some tree removals up there, and so that'll bring safe sidewalks down Holcomb Boulevard, really from the Sears development, if you're familiar with that, down to the Holcomb School Drive entrance. And there's some I think 2 rapid flashing beacons that are going in on that, and some wall work to kind of get that all to fit in there, some storm drainage work. So it's going to be, even though you just got through most of the development construction improvements on Holcomb Boulevard, now you're going to go into this project's construction, and hopefully that'll go a little quicker. And then McLaughlin Boulevard pedestrian enhancement concept. If you haven't been paying attention to this, it's getting kind of interesting. They're talking now, the latest concept is a suspension bridge, which really, there's some great graphics. Again, if you go into the city's website and look for that project, you'll find some pretty cool graphics that go along with it to show you what we're talking about there. But that is really in the concept planning phase. A suspension bridge, as you can imagine, would be very, very expensive. So I think it's down the road. I won't be able to finish that by the time I'm done in August, but just know that it's a great project and really features our waterfront a lot. And then just trying to get through PEMA. I think I'm running behind, and I apologize for that. There's one other project that I meant to mention that I didn't put on the slide, was the transit center. So TriMet's been talking to us about the transit center, and I think we're going to try to get them in front of the commission in June because they'd like to reconfigure that, park some more layover buses there, and just it's a very tight spot. So further utilize that tight spot with more buses between SMART coming to town and the Canby transit and more transit service into Oregon City. So that's coming up, and we'll learn more about what that could look like in June. Again, this is a standard program, but there's lots of information on our pavement management program. But one of the reasons why we think it's successful is, for one, we've been very, very accountable for what we've been doing with those pavement management dollars. And we try to plan ahead and coordinate some of this pavement work so that we're not spending those dollars on facilities that then we're going to go tear up with utility work. So just know that we look at pavement condition of streets. That's one driver, but it's not the only driver. And sometimes we'll let roads like Tim Street go to almost failure before we're going to throw much investment in those. But the idea would be that we'd get through the utility work first, or as much of it as we can, and then pave it out. And right now we've got a pavement condition index of 75 out of 100, which is really, really very good. But we also have a pretty large backlog of projects. And so as we forecast that out and we have some scenario runs that we can do, we see that just because of the way pavements deteriorate and where they're going to deteriorate, the type of facilities that we have that are becoming more difficult to complete projects with the money that we have, we actually anticipate our pavement condition will drop a little bit, and our backlog of work will grow from 18.8 million to 32.5 million citywide. So I always feel really, really thankful to the city for, first of all, at the time the leadership implemented a pavement maintenance utility fee. That has funded a lot of work, and I'll show you another slide on that. But they've continued to support that, and right now we have a pavement maintenance utility fee that shows up on your bill of $15.53 a month, and for multifamily it's $10.90 a month. And that's a big ask. There's no doubt about that. That's a big ask. But all that money either goes to pavement maintenance like this. This is a preventative maintenance treatment, or reconstruction. We paid for a lot of Malala Avenue with our pavement maintenance dollars on that piece between Beaver Creek and Highway 213. If you've seen the work in your own neighborhood that we've done, it's quality work. It includes fixing any ADA ramps at corners. So it's a really successful program, but it's also a very big commitment. So we appreciate that. The other thing I like to remind folks of is that those pavement maintenance dollars are only spent on city streets, and we have other agencies with streets in Oregon City that people don't always realize, and that's our highways. 99E is one of them, and it's in pretty bad condition. Beaver Creek Road from 213 out to, say, the high school, that's county road. Abernathy, in front of the old county shop there, that's county road. So we have a few spotted roads. South End Hill, which is actually not in bad condition, but there's other facilities out there that aren't ours, and I'd like to put a big sign out there that says, this is not our road, send your calls somewhere else. But we absorb those calls. But I'm just telling you that that just know that your pavement maintenance dollars are going to the streets that the city has jurisdiction over.
Why isn't Beaver Creek ours?
Well, we haven't done a jurisdictional transfer on Beaver Creek from 213 to the city limits, essentially. We're talking about a jurisdictional transfer there, but we have what's called an urban growth management agreement, and with the county, that's very old. It's, I think, we just looked at it, I think it's 1980 version, that talks about how to do jurisdictional transfers, and there's a little bit of a gap between what the county might pay us for that and what we'd be willing to accept it for. But you're right, as we see more and more development out there, it makes sense to make that a city road. A couple other projects, the tribute to the 5 Cayuse Men is a small gathering area with some monument signs. It's going to be out on the promenade, out by the city's viewpoint. So that if you've seen it on social media or if you walk the promenade, we have just started putting up some fencing up there. It's really just a soft path with, again, some signage and just kind of a gathering place. That's kind of the first phase. I think working with the tribes, we might want to see something more in the future, but we worked through this, and so look for more of that. We're hoping to have more of a celebration of that, or a tribute event, maybe it's, as opposed to a celebration, a tribute event on June 3rd. So it's not going to take us very long to build that once we get started. I already talked about the McLaughlin Boulevard pedestrian enhancement concepts. Cove water quality analysis, the commission asked us, Cove property is part of the slate of properties that the Urban Renewal Agency owns. And we've had some blue-green algae incidents on that towards the end of the summer. So the question is why? And we haven't done over the years, even though that's been an issue, we haven't done an actual analysis where we've gone out and collected samples. So we're going to do that this year, start that this year, and hope for some good results. So that work is, you won't notice that work happening because it's really just sampling, but it's something that I thought was interesting. And then let's see, if you live in Elyville, this Beamer Way outfall is really down at the bottom of Peterskeen Road. Most people don't even know where this is at, but we've got a stormwater outfall there that's incised, and it really needs to be reconstructed. So we'll be taking care of that project as well. Other programs, I'm going to show you those I didn't have slides for, but these I do. PGE and the Oregon City Municipal Charging Collaboration Pilot Project. I want to share that with you and get your sense of what you might think of that. The Transportation Advisory Committee is talking about 20 is plenty, which is a concept of reducing speed limits in neighborhood streets. Tis the season for water system backflow testing. So talk to you a little bit about that and why we need that. We were directed by the City Commission to do an intersection safety audit of a particular roadway, and we do those all the time in other areas, so I just kind of talk through that a little bit. And then our sidewalk replacement assistance program. So, how am I doing on time? I'm probably way over, huh?
Are you okay?
7:30. Ask
You're
your
okay.
chair.
Am I okay? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry about that, but,
Going first next time, John.
yeah, I know. I didn't practice
Duly
this.
noted.
I did not practice. I was just trying to get you information, and I'm sorry it's taking so long. So the pole charging station. So this is something PGE is doing in Milwaukee, and they would like to try it in Oregon City. And so we would like to move forward with call it a pilot project, because we really haven't gone through a lot of public discussion about this idea. But the idea would be have electrical vehicle charging stations that kind of sit on a pole up above your reach up there, but with a interface that you could communicate with the right app and the right phone, and a payment method. And with that, assuming you plug all that in, power cord drops beautifully out of the sky, or at least 10 feet above your head from the power pole, and you could plug into that in a parking space. And so that's the idea, because especially in places like the McLaughlin neighborhood, where people don't necessarily have garages or have a way to get their vehicle off the street and into a place where it could charge, still want to have electric vehicles. And so how do you do that without creating a trip hazard where they're running their extension cord across the street or having to worry about it being stolen? So this is a concept that apparently is working well. They've got some criteria by which they pick the right location, and they've identified 5 in the McLaughlin neighborhood that we'd like to try and see how it goes. And so I am a little bit curious. We can maybe save the conversation for after, so keep your notes. But, what do you think of this concept? And we actually haven't even brought this to the city commission yet, I don't think. So it's just kind of one of those that we're calling it just really a pilot project, and going to try it out. If it doesn't work, it could change, but we think it's probably a good idea with more and more of these electric vehicles. They've also kind of done, I don't know how they did it, but they've done enough research to figure out which neighborhoods have quite a few electric vehicles. 20 is plenty is something that came from the Transportation Advisory Committee. We've talked about this at the commission level a couple of years ago. Adam, it might have been before your time. I can't remember if you were on, but the city commission, we took this idea of 20 is plenty in some of our, on certain streets is what we were proposing at the time, as opposed to a citywide program. And the TAC is still discussing this and still has some work to do on this, but they feel like there's going to be plenty of neighborhood support and support. They can rally support on the city commission to pursue the idea of 20 miles per hour in residential streets. Now, we did this in Kanema. So Kanema was our test case, and it's worked well as far as I know. We haven't heard any complaints. And I'm sure you're all driving 20 miles per hour down there.
We have Highway 99 that goes through at 50 miles an hour, so, it's hard to notice.
So there will be those corridors that will continue to have speed studies and those kind of things, but these are things like in your neighborhood. And, that's going to vary from neighborhood to neighborhood, right? In Park Place, it's a little more, you've got a little less gridded. McLaughlin's going to be a little more confusing about where 20 is not, right? And there's some questions in our mind about how effective that will be. Obviously, it'll require more signage, which can be, some people perceive as, kind of neighborhood pollution. I'm not a strong advocate, but I'm willing to do, what we need to do to kind of get the will of the people to happen. Other agencies have done it and done it effectively, and clearly, if there's a vehicle to pedestrian incident that happens at a rate that's 5 miles less, I mean, every mile per hour or less in a vehicle accident like that, vehicle to pedestrian accident like that, is a lot more likely to be something that pedestrian would recover from. So, good idea. I think it's got more work to be done. Again, I'd be kind of interested in what this group thinks about that idea. And if you're feeling really strongly about it, pay close attention to what's being discussed at the TAC, Transportation Advisory Committee, for those of you that don't know that.
I'd love to actually understand how many 25 mile an hour residential, pedestrian accidents we actually have to make this a thing.
That's a really good point. I think we need to do a lot more on the study of where our incidents are. I think some people are ready to go there no matter what.
Yeah.
Others want more data to say, well, why, right?
Yeah.
Or, how do we measure the effectiveness of this, for instance? So, yeah.
Yeah, I've been watching the TAC meetings and watching them discussing this, and that's been the question on my mind is how much of an issue actually is it?
Yeah.
I know, for an example, ODOT, when they go to look at making like intersection changes or things like that, they're looking at studies of, fatalities and injuries and things of that nature. Well, I don't necessarily always agree with how they, rate those kind of things. It would be good to understand, is this an actual problem?
Yeah, I agree. Bob's got his card up. I don't know.
Yeah, I have.
I was going to kind of wait till you finish, but that's okay. Go ahead.
It looks like Park Place Neighborhood Association has a consensus to not support this proposal. several things that I've thought about is we've been quoted a cost of $10,500. For what, I don't know, because the staff time to include the crews to replace or alter the signs, the new sign making, office time, scheduling the crews to go out and do the work and whatnot would far exceed that $10,500. And for a somewhat questionable net effect, I mean, how many people would follow the 20-mile-an-hour speed limit? And what would our enforcement division from the police department, how actively would they support that? Probably not very much, because they got a lot of other things on their plate. I think that, like I said, the Park Place Neighborhood Association has a consensus now to not support it. I personally am against spending any money on that project. That's where I come from.
Well, I mean, appreciate that. I think it's a little bit early, maybe not a lot early, but a little bit early because I think there's still a lot of unanswered questions that we just want to answer. I just really want you to know that the conversation's starting. And I think the commission's going to ask us pretty similar questions about how much, how effective it is, how big of a problem is it, how likely is it to change behavior, what do those agencies that have done think about it, and, because you're right, the number that you quoted, I think, is just the signs themselves, just the sign faces, not mounting them, not installing new ones, because a lot of our 25-mile-an-hour signs that are in the neighborhoods, there's not that many, so most of them are in, most of the neighborhoods will need new signage just because most, the rule of law is, 25 miles per hour maximum if it's unmarked. So, yeah. I see one more here.
Yours.
Real quick, our top person came last time for our neighborhood meeting. The mom of one of our representatives from the police department.
Carla, will you move forward towards the mic?
We can't, we can't pick up your voice. You can sit up here.
So,
Would you
can
join
you
us?
hear me okay?
Could you join us though?
Oh, sure, yeah,
Thank you.
no problem. Excuse me.
Have a chair.
So I can appreciate where some of my, fellow neighborhoods are coming from, totally, depending on where you live. But one of the TAC members had come to our meeting, and I totally respect this person. And I think it definitely depends on where you live. In our neighborhood, the infill's happening fairly quickly. And I know if you take my road, for example, it was broadcast as the future of Oregon City, and it's one lane. And a lot of our neighborhood, it's kind of, with the infill happening, it's one lane and one side of parking, and people will go 25 miles an hour. And it's like the kids play on the road. You can't see, past the cars. So it just depends on where you live. But like long term, especially in some of the neighborhoods, it's scary. Like 25 seems like 30, but I think it depends on your roads and where you live, and depends on your neighborhood, so.
Yeah, definitely in your neighborhood where you don't have any street markings, street paint or anything like that, the mayo and the mustard, it might make sense for somewhere down there if there's those incidents.
But infill long-term, this may be the future, but it just depends on how the development happens in your neighborhood.
John, continue.
Okay, I'm going to move on.
Okay, thank you.
If I can, I'm asleep again on the screen. Okay, just real quickly, water system backflow prevention. Any of you that have irrigation systems should be familiar with this, because the rest of your water system and the city's water system should be protected by a backflow preventer. And just know that we send out letters, so you probably get a letter if you have such a device. And now is the season to go ahead and get that tested. So it's just a reminder. And that this whole process is about protecting the city's drinking water system from having some kind of a contamination that might play out with a mix of old water that's sitting in your irrigation system that could get into the city's water system. And then I mentioned this intersection safety program. This one's specific to Central Point Road, but we do the site distance triangle analysis pretty regularly, especially when there's low-hanging tree limbs or somebody's brush is in the wrong spot. But this one was specific about people parking too close to the corners on roads like Central Point Road, where they park on the roadway or they park on the side street, and those vehicles that are coming up to the stop bar and stopping and looking for vehicle traffic, cross traffic, are traveling at a speed that really doesn't give that driver who's entering the more major roadway a good view to see that oncoming traffic. So we're doing this in-house on Central Point Road. Right now, we've assigned an engineer and an operations guy who does the signage and does a little more of that road maintenance kind of work, and just kind of working through this. But just wanted to let you know that that option's out there. If you feel like there's a site distance concern and want to report it, we'll get out there right away and take a look at it. And then this is another program that's been around for a couple of years now. This is a grant program. City Commission has funded this at $200,000 a year, and so far we haven't spent that. But we know there's lots of trip hazards out there that are a result of street trees, the wrong street trees planted in the wrong place, and that have just outgrown those areas. So we like to save our street trees to the degree we can. We will, but this grant program would mandate that if it is, if in order to get the grant, it has to be a result of a street tree root system. And normally that's bad enough to where the tree has got to be removed. There is another option that we'll consider if a property owner wants to provide an easement to allow that sidewalk to meander, and there's the right kind of configuration to allow that to happen. We will look at that, but for the most part, we're seeing most of these requiring the removal of the street tree and removal of the root system underneath it, and then just replacement of the sidewalk. So it's $1,500 per street tree affected area. So if you have a lot of frontage and several street trees that have created this, you can get multiple grants. We do it in one, but I mean, you would get the value of multiple grants for that. Speaking of grants, we've got a few of them that McLaughlin, we've been calling it different things, but it's the frontage along 99E from really 10th Street to Tumwater Village. It actually goes to the tunnel, but those are a couple landmarks. So that project, I think we got a little over $700,000 to do the study that's underway right now and get public involvement associated with that. So again, if you haven't seen that, I think they brought some pretty good graphics. I missed the last one, but I think they brought some pretty good graphics to the commission to see with this latest version of a suspension bridge. The quiet zone, we got $2 million to implement this quiet zone project. The Holcomb Safe Routes to School, we've got a $1.6 million grant. I think we're going to spend quite a bit more than that, but we've got a $1.6 million grant. The $1 million grant for the All Roads Transportation Project, which is along Beaver Creek Road, and going to include that 213, congestion ahead signage. We got one for Main Street from 10th to 15th for $432,600. So that possibly combined with what TriMet's working on and a couple other projects that we've done down there, we're going to try and finish up that portion of our boulevard enhancement. And then we just recently learned, we still haven't really kind of figured out when and how that money's coming through the legislature, but we have received word that the Highway 213 at Redland Road Improvement, which is the picture that I'm showing up here, has received a $4 million grant. Now, that $4 million is going to have to be paired up with investments from hopefully the state and the county and maybe the legislature, because it's a very expensive project. But it would extend the 3 lanes in each, it would add 1 lane in each direction for a total of 6 lanes, I guess. Really from where the Jug Handle Project Phase 1 stopped, and take it all the way to the Redland Road overpass, and there it would go back to a 4-lane section, and then it would include some work on Redland Road as well. So we think that's good news, and we've initiated some conversations with the state and county on that project, because it takes a while to get these big projects to reality. And if you haven't seen C-Sweepio, it's probably because we've had some operational issues with her, but she made the parade, I heard, so there you go. I'm done, late but done.
Any other, or Bob's got a question? Oh, Dee Dee and, do you guys want to come up and join us? Thank you.
John, is the transportation system plan, is this the year it's going to start being redone?
Not 24, 2025 was when we had slated to get the transportation system plan updated. That said, it was hinged on an ODOT grant that Aquila and Dana have been working on, and the latest we heard from the state was that funding that was allocated for not just ours, but other agencies that are trying to update their transportation system plans, including Clackamas County, that money was no longer available. So we're scrambling a little bit to figure out if we're gonna have the funding to be able to do that plan update.
Where would that funding have come from?
A state, a state program. That's how we funded our last transportation system plan update as well. So it's, I don't know the exact pot of money, but it's a state funded grant.
And how long do you think the construction will last on Holcomb Boulevard?
Good question, Bob. I'm going to remind you about that project website page, because that's the right way to find the right answer. It's 60 to 90 days, I believe, is what we've got in there. It's going to happen. It needs to be done before school opens. School starts.
Yeah, sure, yeah, okay, thank you.
Dee Dee, you had a question?
Mine will go back to the sidewalk tree grant. When that discussion was going on, the discussion about removal of trees has been skewed now, because it used to be that, and I'm talking back into my ears too. So it used to be that you had removed a tree, but you had to go get an arborist report if it was a tree over, if I'm not mistaken, 20 centimeters in diameter. It was back during holidays time, and that was during street trees, city trees, and heritage trees. That has disappeared with that. And also, there's no alternatives other than cutting the tree. We did an inventory of how many trees we've planted in a year and how many trees we have removed in a year, and it's almost 1-to-1. That's a pretty pitiful return on our urban canopy, considering we're removing mature trees and the relation with 2-inch diameter saplings, that their survival rate isn't real high in that case. And then some of the street trees, the perfect example is the church on 7th and Taylor. They removed a really beautiful 25-year pin oak because it was lifting the sidewalk. They smoothed out the sidewalk, but they didn't just take it all out, and the bump is still there. But then they took out 3 other sickly-looking trees. They were like a plum, an ornamental plum, the same ones they have in their parking lot. But then they didn't replace those trees. They actually cemented over it, where that sidewalk is so large, it's larger than the one they have on 5th Avenue in front of the other church that houses 5 beautiful oak trees. those could have been made larger holes for putting 3 substantial trees in there or 2 substantial trees. Now we have none. And then they got a finger shaking at them for plugging up one of their holes. They said, oh, we forgot it. I don't know if you remember that or not, but then the city forgave them and said, oh, just buy a tree from around the corner over by the bus stop. That tree hasn't been planted. But being in concrete for 22 years, it's not that expensive, especially when your concrete's green, to jackhammer that out. And the contractor should have had to do that. It was their fault. They overlooked it. They should have had to remove the concrete and put the tree spacer back in, the tree hole.
Question coming up here?
Okay, I'm sorry, I'll stop. But we have to have more alternatives with our tree canopy and saving the trees, maybe bending the sidewalk a little bit, putting in what we did up at the Rose Museum. They put impervious bricks down, and they did that like in the 80s, maybe even 90s. But they saved those 3 large pin oaks by doing that. And it's very sad that we're losing major trees and we're just putting in trees that really won't grow higher than 40 feet tall. You can't nest in a tree that's 40 foot tall. Anyway, that's my huge concern, is that grant is not addressing other alternatives. Say, get rid of that one if you want to put it in your front yard and get them a credit for planting it, and or, Friends of Trees is very inexpensive.
I agree.
But subsidize it somehow.
I agree with the Friends of Trees thing. That's been a successful program, and I do think that there's opportunities there. I think the last go around, we just updated this policy, and the commission directed us to make sure the documentation that we provide the property owners and the conversations that we have with them remind them of that Friends of Trees program. But on the flip side of that is, the older neighborhoods, and I don't know about all the locations that you're talking about, but these older neighborhoods with the narrow planter strips of 3 feet or less, trying to plant a tree that, like what you'd like to see as a heritage tree, is the wrong place. And can we encourage property owners to put trees on the backside of the sidewalks? Because those trees that are on the backside of the sidewalks seldom have an impact on the sidewalk, and yet they become, a heritage tree-like tree, right? Instead of kind of sickly trees that struggle to survive.
Yeah,
So-
the fact that the church that's on 7th and Taylor, why they were removing those trees, they probably removed 5 more out of their parking lot. And they have those teeny little tiny parking things where no tree can grow in it. Maybe, I live by that church, so I've never seen that parking lot packed, even on Sunday. Maybe you could make a swap out with them saying, get rid of 4 of your parking spaces, put in 4 substantial trees, and you could do whatever you want to your parking lot. We gave them a road, if I'm not mistaken, back in the day. There used to be an alley that went through their parking lot. And then, so they were given that parking lot and that road. Come on, you don't have to be a tree hater. If they have to compromise. It's a hot spot there. And it's getting worse. They're just chopping away at them. Drive and take a look if you could. Thank you very much.
Carla, you have a question?
Yep, real quick. So quiet zones going forward, which is, awesome for downtown. The only question I have is, the last time I heard that the train's not slowing down, is that still the case at all with the quiet zone? Because part of when the train goes through, you hear it, and then, to skedaddle, there's not a lot of warning if people are on the
Carla, will you
road.
make sure your microphone is on?
Sure.
Thanks.
You know to skedaddle if the train's coming. That's the noise. So if there's a quiet zone, is there going to be more warning, or like a little bit more time for that, the lights to go on and barricades to come down?
Yeah, so there are provisions for better gate activity and more lighting, a lot more lighting that goes into that, those crossings, and a lot more gate. Right now, you've got one gate that's pretty short, comes down, cars could drive around it. You won't have provisions for driving around that particular facility. And with the pedestrian one at 11th, they actually have to the pedestrian has to do kind of a Z thing to get even to the tracks, so a lot more there. And there's also no guarantee that the train won't blow its horn. It just isn't. Once you get the right safety provisions in, they're not mandated to blow their horn, but the train operator always has the opportunity to do that. So I think if the question is it going to be? You asked about speed. There's nothing in the quiet zone requirements that would require the train operator to slow down, and that's actually one of the the railroad's been pretty adamant about that. They just assume blow their horn as much as they can and have as many safety measures as possible because they don't want accidents either. But they're all about moving freight and passengers.
Right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Okay, looks like Clackamas Fire District. Doug, you up? And can we hold our questions till after he's given his talk, and then we can ask questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate the opportunity to be here. John, congratulations on the upcoming retirement. It's a big loss for the city. John and I have worked together for different stuff for a number of years. I'm very happy for him, though. All right, introduce myself. I'm Doug Whiteley with Clackamas Fire. I'm a division chief over community services, so all the areas that kind of reach out to the community and different stuff involving kind of our proactive means of the fire service trying to prevent incidents. That kind of falls under my purview. My office is actually just about a block and a half that way at the old fire station there right by the library, so I love being close. I've spent most of my life in and around the city of Oregon City. I live just outside of it in Redland now, so this is an area very near and dear to me. So I'm here just to give a very brief fire district update and then kind of actually have a couple thoughts and ideas on fire district communication to share with you guys, and then I'll channel that through Hannah afterwards. So the big thing I want to talk to everybody about is the fire district staffing levy that the community supported and approved almost a year ago exactly, within a couple weeks. So I really want to give an update on that. Also, thank you all for the support, and those in your community supported that. We've been able to do a lot of great things with that. The biggest first step moving forward on that would have been in January. We were able to increase our daily staffing at 5 different fire stations. We went from 3 on-duty firefighters to 4 each day at those locations, one of them being at Station 15, just a block or 2 away from here. So there's a lot of benefits of adding that 4th. I won't spend a lot of time going into it, but think of any job you do with 3 versus 4 people, and you can kind of begin to understand that. And when it involves life safety, it's even more exponentially important having that. There's even a couple examples at stations that were increased that truly showed the benefit since January of that additional person that saved lives. We have 2 very shining examples and numerous other small examples. I won't share all of them. One of them is a local one because this station was involved. A vehicle last month down at Meldrum Bar went into the river. An individual ended up in the water from that. This crew at that time was the closest responding. They showed up immediately because they had 4, immediately deployed 2 individuals into the water with their life vest to grab the person out in the water. Because they had 2 in the water and had 2 on shore, that was how they were able to go out there aggressively get that person. The 2 on shore were able to immediately throw, we call lifelines, a rope out to them downstream, so they floated into them, grabbed it, and brought that individual in. That is our most recent example of really the benefit of that levy going from 3 to 4 individuals. Upcoming changes from the levy as well, you'll see in the near future. Though it's not right in this community, there are bigger benefits to growing other areas. The Clark's community out just south of Beaver Creek will now be getting, around July 1st, will be getting career firefighter staffing. It's had volunteers in the past. Volunteers are an awesome program. We will always have that. I was a volunteer before I started with a career with the fire district. But volunteers also have their other jobs, so we're not able to always have volunteers available and present. So we're putting career staffing at that station 24/7. And it's been a long time since that's been the case for that community. What we like to share with that is that, yes, that immediately helps that community for the response and the help in that area, but it also helps the neighboring ones, because in this case now, you don't have a fire engine from Beaver Creek responding out to the Clark's Highland area, which would then pull somebody from the city, this city to Beaver Creek to help balance everything out. So it's kind of a big movement game when incidents happen. So we're really excited about that deployment. Future stuff will also be the deployment of a couple quick response vehicles, and I know Tim has passion on that through other conversations with him, his involvement with the fire district. But quick response vehicles are essentially small, agile units, not nearly as big as the fire engine and the trucks you see, but the idea is they take what we call as low acuity calls, lower risk type calls is what that means, and they take a lot of those ones they can quickly get into, handle with 1 to 2 people, and then leave the larger units for the bigger incidents ready to go. And again, that just adds more units into the system to help balance the load out. We don't have an exact date on the deployment of those yet, but they will be happening, I assume, within the next year or so. There'll be other things continue to happen from this levy. It is a 5-year levy, so we're really excited to continue to share that. And again, appreciate the support of the community on that. A couple other things just to share. This kind of is a big picture to focus is how we share information into the communities we serve. If anybody has interest, we do have a pretty active social media presence on most platforms that are standard. Facebook, Instagram are kind of our primary ones. We do have Twitter involvement as well. I'll be honest with you, I've never touched Twitter. I don't understand it, but I know it exists. So that is one way we try to reach out as much as possible with timely information. We've also reintroduced the Fire District newsletter. We've titled it The Siren, and that's a quarterly newsletter that pushes information out as best we can. You'll see that through our social media, but the idea is there about every 3 months to give an update on some bigger things, what's going on in the district, and also maybe to share some highlighted information. The one that just got published, you'll kind of see probably the more detailed written version of that water rescue I just shared about. Also, we share about different types of apparatus, different programs we do. We used to do this pretty consistently in the past, and we stepped away, and now we tried to reformat, bring it back, again, with the focus of having as much information possible about the district out there. The last piece of this kind of ties into the main reason I'm here is engaging with our communities at more of a personal level. I believe some of these communities have experienced this. Our goal is really to get our stations that are assigned to the areas where you guys lived more closely involved as we can, and to come see you guys, have you get to know the people working in your area. So our goal is maybe every 3 to 4 months to have a fire crew, being the 3 firefighters on duty, 3 or 4 in this case, on duty that day, to come to one of your guidance meetings that you'd want them at, invite them to, that type of thing, to give exactly kind of what I just did, a quick 5-10 minute update of the fire district, answer maybe any pertinent questions you have, but allow just to kind of start to build that community presence and understanding. So what I would ask, we don't need to share names and everything right now. I'll have Hannah push out my information. If that's something your group's interested in, I'll have you just reach out to me, and I will make sure you get connected with the station captain of your community. And then we can try to work out a system where they get on a reoccurring schedule to come see you guys. This isn't unique to Oregon City, though you're the first group I'm able to actually get with face-to-face. We're trying to do the same thing in Happy Valley, Milwaukee, different areas that we serve as well. So just really an effort to get out and get more of a personal presence to our communities. So happy to answer any questions. I see that one right there. Oh, so do you point them out? I'm sorry, I'll let you.
That's okay, yeah. Tim?
Doug, we've been very fortunate in having the staff from our station there in McLaughlin, almost every meeting. And that stopped about 6 months ago.
Okay.
And I don't know why. I guess my question is, first of all, how were they being notified of our meetings? We mail out mailers. I don't know if they go to the main office or they go to the station itself. That's the first question. And are you getting them? Second question is, you know, I understand if they're not there, that's great, but, you know, they're just across the street from where we have our meeting, so they typically are there, and we just haven't seen them, so I'm just wondering if something changed within the organization.
Nope, nothing changed, and that's exactly why I'm here, because I've had a few other instances of someone asking, say, hey, what happened? Sometimes staffing changes and maybe the message doesn't get delivered. Something gets hung up maybe in a spam type email or whatever, but that's exactly why I'm here, is to kind of re-engage and kind of reestablish that relationship and making sure we can chat going forward. You did share something I think important as well, is the beauty of having an on-duty crew is you kind of know your local firefighters, but we'll also be sending them on duty as well. So we'd ask that, recognizing that they may need to step away for a call, and also maybe the understanding that have them present early and have the flexibility to step away and maybe move to other obligations. But yeah, yours was one that I noticed I hadn't seen on our activities calendar recently. So that was kind of what prompted my, one of the reasons for coming.
Great, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I believe Kanema had notifies the fire department by email, and they've been guest speakers for forever, so we always appreciate them as well.
Perfect.
Sarah, we haven't heard from Sarah?
Okay, first I want to say that's great that we have extra staffing and it's helpful.
Yeah.
But the water rescue, I'm really curious, what would that have looked like with only 3 responders?
Yeah, and it's hard to say. I mean, obviously there are standards that go by, but every instance is a little bit different. Obviously I wasn't there. In theory, you probably would have maybe tried to send one person in the water, but usually we don't send one at a time, especially in that instant where we don't have our water rescue team on site. So it could have been a lot of spotting and waiting for additional units to show up.
A lot of delay.
Potentially, yes.
Thank you.
And with maybe a less than desirable outcome.
Right, right. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So, you said get in touch with you?
Yeah. Perfect. What I'm going to do, if it's okay with you guys, I'm going to have Hannah send out my name, phone number, and email, and then you guys can reach out to me directly, and then I will become the link for you guys, then I'll step out and then have you guys connect directly with your station captain.
Okay, we had them coming to our meetings pre-COVID,
Pre-COVID, and
and then it quit.
yeah, and we want to start that up again, so that's great.
I live in the Park Place neighborhood, and I'd just like to say that the responses to emergencies from that group of people has just been fantastic. Luckily, I've never had a fire, but I've had some medical emergencies in my home over the years. Also, I had an old friend of mine once say that there should be 1 zucchini plant allowed per county because they are prolific. So what I do with my extra vegetables is I take them down to the fire station.
Oh, okay.
So I'd encourage you to do so. Help the guys feed themselves.
I appreciate that. We have some extraordinary chefs and cooks that work at the fire station as well, so I'm sure they appreciate that. That's it for me. Perfect.
Anything else?
Does anyone have any questions in regard to the basement? I know some of us met last Monday. Are there any questions about the neighborhood association basement that's
Oh, yeah.
in the,
Thank you.
yeah? No?
No, the only question is you're not intending to change anything, right?
No.
No, it's contractually, we have that piece.
Yep, and that was the main reason for reaching out, was to, we weren't looking to change anything, but also making sure that because we never see you guys coming and going, so I wanted to make sure you guys were still using it, still could access it and stuff. That was the only reason it came up.
The only question I had on that in the past, and this was early CCFD and prior to TVF&R, the door between the basement, fire station basement and our office, we opened that to a conference area that the police and we shared. That area is now storage for you guys. I was wondering, because we certainly could use that space if we, for small meetings, if there was a way to make that available and of course not accessible to the main bay, but I don't know if you need the storage or whatever.
Well, kind of multi-part. I don't know the full answer to that. I do know we need the storage, and I think there was some exiting concerns originally when they went away from having meetings down there. As you can see, there's no, staff assigned down there anymore, but I'll follow up and get back to you guys.
Yeah, I'd just be interested if there's a way to use it, because it's a small office, but we had the larger space where we did hold meetings.
Right.
We also held meetings upstairs in your conference room, and after 9/11 and other situations, security was major, and then after COVID, it got even worse. So we haven't had anything going on there since then. But
Okay, yeah, I'll do some following up for you.
thanks, Doug.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
perfect. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.
Thanks,
Thank
Doug.
you.
Are there any public comments?
We do. Jerry
do.
Herman?
Okay.
Jerry? Yeah.
Thank you. My name's Jerry Herman. I'm involved with the Two Rivers Neighborhood Association. I'm not a member because I live in Gladstone. However, I'm going to give you some updates about some things that are happening that have to do with the river. You're all aware that we have a dock. It's Oregon's biggest dock, heaviest constructed dock, built in 2003 at John Storm Park location, which is right next to the Abernathy Bridge. 4 years ago, we developed a group called the River Assets and Opportunities Task Force to try to figure out what we could do to link together the various assets that Oregon City had without thinking about other cities from the standpoint of what could serve the area in terms of economic development, recreation, tourism, especially river-based tourism, fisheries, and things of that nature. We looked strictly at Oregon City, and then this last year, we began to look broader at the other cities involved. Let me explain. The River Assets Opportunities Task Force is an ad hoc group. It's not sanctioned, but it's supported by 4 cities right now. We've enlisted the help of Gladstone in becoming involved with it because they have a tourism program they're initiating. They also have a mitigation program. I've talked to you folks about that before, where they've improved major areas of their park acreage, 10 to be exact, with millions of dollars, up to $8 million to date was invested to improve their park areas for habitat, wildlife, and recreation. Westland has a new economic development effort for their riverfront, which is amazing. It's a urban renewal district. We have an urban renewal district too, as you know. In the case of Westland, 5 years ago, they started going to their citizens and asking them, what would you think about doing this below the falls or above the falls between Bernard Landing and Tualatin River and so forth? Began building momentum so that this last year when they went for an advisory vote, which they didn't have to, urban renewal districts don't have to do that, the commission, the council over there got 85% support for what they're doing. Their side of the river is going to include a cultural center for Native Americans, possibly above the falls, some improvements for old wastewater lagoons that serve the Blue Heron plant here in Oregon City and also still serve the Crown Zellerback, I should say, Westland Paper Company location today. All the areas from the Tualatin River down to the Arch Bridge are their target area for improvements, public improvements, recreation, things like that. And now they're going to be considering the area below the Arch Bridge, clear down to the 205 Bridge, which includes McLean House and Park. You might be aware of that. The city of Canby seemingly has no waterfront. Well, yes, they do. It's from Olalla River State Park, 5 miles downriver, to Wallace Eddy, or New Era Bar, which is basically a location, 5 miles of riverfront that they were trying to figure out how they can link it into some improvement projects. And their first efforts in tourism, we helped them with this some time ago, were to launch a jet boat above Willamette Falls since the locks were closed and go all the way to Champoeg Newburgh. Amazing trip. Just a remarkable trip. Several of those are done for Canby. So they have an economic development director, and the mayor there, Brian Hodson, is very interested in seeing their river play a role as here. Let me talk about here now. Here in Oregon City, the dock I mentioned to you, built in 2003 by Bellingham Construction Companies, very heavily built. dock installed by Advanced American Diving, which was located, believe it or not, in Kanema. They're now in Portland. They put the dock in place, drove the pilings and all that. The Marine Board had federal money that would help support that dock for the purposes of vessels coming in and staying up to 72 hours at that dock before they transited Willamette Falls locks. Well, you all know what happened to locks. Well, if you don't, the locks closed in 2012 and have not been opened since. So that dock had a purpose for helping larger vessels that could not be trailered to go through the locks. It's absolutely unused right now. In 2015, the organization I serve as president of, Rivers of Life Center, got a grant from Oregon City for $28,000 to do a study with the Portland Spirit Organization to bring vessels to that dock, professional vessels, then get the people off those vessels, the vessel, onto buses and tour all the museums. And in the ticket price of those 2,000 people that attended in 2015 was $5 for each museum per person, which was new revenue that they'd never seen before. And so that idea worked really well, we thought. But the essence of the whole thing is that dock by the Marine Board has been determined to be not suitable for vessels bigger than 60 feet, and 40 tons. Well, we're looking at that seriously now. And two of your commissioners in this city are looking at the whole situation more diligently, because the dock was built to serve the bigger vessels I told you about, and also water taxis, which didn't even exist. We believe the dock is more than suitable for the vessels from the Portland Spirit, smaller, medium-sized, so forth, certainly Willamette jet boats. So why am I going through all this? It's time for the four cities, we think, to link together their efforts. And the River Assets Group met 2 weeks ago. 16 people showed up. Every city sent a representative. A proclamation now called a resolution has been developed by Commissioner Mike Mitchell and Commissioner Frank O'Donnell, and is going to be submitted to each city for consideration for their signature. The signatories will, besides the cities, will include Willamette Falls Locks Authority, Willamette Jet Boats, Portland Spirit Organization, Reliant Tours, and all the vessel operators. And the most interesting one is the city of Salem has a vessel that they want to locate down here, I should say. The owner wants to locate it here in this area. It's called the Sternwheeler Willamette Queen. It's beautiful, just a beautiful vessel. It's like a fairyland. So we're trying to link together Canby, Oregon City, Westland, Gladstone in a unified effort to make tourism work, outdoor recreation, fisheries for sure still works. The runs aren't very good right now, by the way. Sea lions are gone, runs are not good right now, but still, the sturgeon fisheries are one of the best in the world here. Salmon fisheries, not as good as it should be, but it's still here. All this can work together, we think, including that tourism aspect of vessels coming in, bus tours, touring the city, the downtown district, the museums, and so forth, for the purposes of really unifying the effort. So you're gonna hear more about that very, very soon. It's been a long effort, but we're not giving up. We're moving forward because we think there's more power in four cities talking to the Marine Board about things than there is one city talking to any entity about things. We have more power as a unity. We all have common interests of seeing our river cities service in some way, shape, and form. That's what we're all about. So thank you for letting me speak to you. And the Two Rivers Neighborhood Association has been really involved in this. I want you to know that. Okay.
We would like to have the Two Rivers join us back at CIC.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'd like to have the Two Rivers join us here at the CIC, if you can get representatives.
I'm not hearing too well.
Okay, we, CIC, would like to have your neighborhood association rejoin us here.
Oh, well, what I'd like to do is come back and tell you what's really going on as this thing moves forward. In the next 3 months, things are going to happen.
Okay,
if
well,
that's
we'd
okay
like to
with
have
you.
a representative here, or two.
Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye. Minutes, have we all had time to read the minutes?
Yes, I move to approve.
Okay,
I second.
all approve?
Aye.
Disapprove? Okay. staff report.
So, Trail News, the summer issue of Trail News, there's been a couple of, oh, wrong one. Where did it go? There it is. The summer issue of Trail News has been up for, let me share my screen too. Has been up for approval. I'm going to show you the neighborhood associations page, which is down on 36. We're under community development, or 30, no, past public works. Community information, there we are. So we have the neighborhood associations with meeting times. There's a copy of this that's also attached as an exhibit to the staff report. I just want to make sure that everyone looks over, I think the last edits for the Trail News are going to be due by May 10th, I believe. But the sooner that I get any edits, the better. So we have the neighborhood associations with all of their website links, their meeting locations and time, a map of the neighborhood association, and then we've got some community information with everyone's QR codes, and then an announcement about Gaffney Lane and South End residents for those who are living within those neighborhoods, for them to know that their neighborhood associations are reactivating. So just make sure and look over that. The only change that I've made to these documents since it's come out is the individual key links to each website. I have gone in and redirected all of the neighborhood association web pages to be more accessible on written documents. So instead of having a long URL that's www.orcity.org.13205 / blah, 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 whatever. It's going to be just directly /Kanema, / Caulfield. So that's an update for all of you to know. And that will be updated in the neighborhood association section of the Trail News. Those updates, there'll also be, there's e-Trail News that went out recently at the end of April, and there'll be another one that goes out in May. There's always neighborhood association meetings listed within there for the 2 months. So the last one that came out at the end of April had dates for May and June neighborhood association dates. Gaffney Lane and South End, like I talked about within the Trail News edition, are currently in the process of being reactivated. I'm happy to see some representation tonight from William and Mark. Thank you so much for being here. And Dave from Gaffney Lane. Gaffney Lane will have their first meeting on May 21st at 6:30 p.m. They'll be the first neighborhood association that's utilizing that community development community room over in across from the Libkey building. There's a community development department, and within that space, there's the community room. So they'll be utilizing that. South End, I know that, Mark, you talked about potentially having your first meeting, I can't remember exactly when, but I don't think that it was anytime this summer. I think it was later towar's the fall. I don't know if Mark's with us. Anyways.
I don't know if you can hear me, but we're still, networking and building our team. I think it'll probably be fall.
Okay, awesome. That's great to hear, Mark. Postcard mailers, Jared and I have worked out the nitty-gritty of the post office USPS permit account, so there no longer needs to be an extended amount of days, of 10 days, business days in advance for your postcards to be able to go out. It's just the regular 7. And again, that's just to give me some time in case if I'm out of the office or if I get pulled up with some other stuff to be able to get that postcard out. Also, sometimes there's edits that need to be done. More recently, with our switch over to Eagle Web Press, they prefer to have the neighborhood association postcards with a front and a back, and those PDFs sent separately. It's not the end of the world if you send it to me in one document. It's not that hard for me to be able to split it up, but if you're able to send me a front document and a back document in the exact dimensions of the 5.5 by 4, then it makes it a lot easier to move forward a little bit more quickly. What else? If you need a template to be able to have the exact measurements of what the postcard is, the 5 by 4, just be sure to reach out to me and I would be happy to give you one. CIC renewals, everyone has been appointed on the CIC. The mayor appointed everybody on May 1st, so congratulations. I know it took us a little while to get through that, but that's the process within the CIC bylaws, to be able to have proper representation and being nominated from each one of those neighborhood associations. With that being said, if there are any inactive neighborhood associations or neighborhood associations who currently don't have CIC representatives, it does not mean that you can't have a CIC representative moving forward. That'll just be done on a case-by-case basis. So once Gaffney Lane and South End get up and running and they have representatives that they want to have present at CIC meetings, that's something that's more than feasible for us to be able to do. Just make sure to get in contact with me and I'll be in contact with the mayor moving forward with that. Email subscribers, I provided another graph with some updates on your subscribers. Gaffney Lane had a decrease in their number of subscribers because I specifically worked with Dave to be able to eliminate the multiple emails that might be going out. So Dave sent me the email subscriber list that he personally had. I contrasted that with the email list that I had, and I removed any contacts from my email list. That way, they're not getting multiple emails. So that's that. If that's something that you're interested in, if you're worried if people are getting dual or multiple emails, I would be more than happy to go through that same process with your neighborhood. Public records, I'm still uploading public records. Bylaws are still on my mind. I just need to reach out to a couple of more neighborhood associations and solidify that they have their most recent bylaws updated onto both the web page and then also the public records management system. And I have not done that for everybody, but it's on my list. We've talked about phishing for the past couple of months. Again, if you're interested in converting your email that you currently use over to a more generalized one, that's always a great idea. Zoom recordings, like we talked about last meeting, are no longer being stored consistently through the Zoom cloud because there's only a limited amount of storage, but it's still being stored. I have files of it stored, and then I share a specific share file with you through OneDrive as CIC representatives that you can then be able to download the video yourself, or if you need people to have specific access, you can always send me an email and I can grant them that access. And then I'm always doing Zoom trainings for anyone who might need them. The last thing I'm going to mention is the Ermitinger House is celebrating Preservation Month. The mayor just announced a proclamation, I believe, for the Preservation Month just last commission meeting. Anyway, so Saturday, May 18th, there are going to be 2 lectures. What is the history of my house and Guardians of the Past? So if that's something that you're interested in, please get in contact with me. I sent this email out to the CIC representatives and a couple of other neighborhood association contacts. I'm more than happy to send out this flyer again if you want to be able to distribute it, but just an event in your area for you to know about. And that's all I have, except for the budget. Does anyone have any questions on the CIC budget?
CIC budget. Everyone, I think, have been given homework to go back to their neighborhoods and find out exactly how many meetings they had, how much money they had
We'll be going over, I think there might have been some confusion because some of you reached out to me too and were asking, oh, I thought we were having a work session. And we are having a work session, but we're having a work session for the CIC budget specifically at the end of the fiscal year, which is at the end of June. So we'll be doing that at our next meeting in June, when we have a little bit, because there still is money to be spent, not just in individual neighborhood association counts, but as we talked about previously before, in total. Something that I did want to go over with all of you is that right now, there's a total of just over $2,000 within that inactive pooled money that is being used when neighborhood associations who have already spent through their funds need to be able to send out postcards. I do not know if all of these highlighted neighborhood associations, these are the postcard costs for neighborhood associations that would be potentially sending out postcards through the month of May or June or the beginning of July, because those costs would, that postcard would go out maybe before the first week of July, if that's when you're meeting. Like Hillendale, you have yours. Yeah. So with that being said, I had a question for Caulfield and Parks Place. I think Parks Place, Linda was getting in contact with me. You'll be sending out a postcard this month, right? Yeah. Okay, and you're fine within your budget. This is also just good for me to know in general. And then Caulfield, will you be sending out a postcard for your meeting in May?
Yes.
Yes? Okay. Then just make sure to be able to get that information to me again 7 business days in advance. Caulfield, Gaffney Lane, and Park Place they have more than enough money within their budgets, but we have some of these neighborhood associations like Kanema, Elyville. Do you have a postcard you're sending out in July? No, okay. I was not sure about that. I didn't think so, but I wanted to include it just in case. So if that's the case, then in McLaughlin, that was the other question I had. July? Okay. Then if that's the case, then we're $25.94 over the pooled fund. What I would suggest is to tap into one of the other budgets in the case that we go over. Again, these aren't exact estimates. These are predictions. Again, we had the contract signed with Eagle Web Press that it's 51 cents per postcard mailing based off of the mailing resident addresses. So that's just, I'm trying to be proactive.
Well, someone make a motion that we tap into the funds, or?
Yeah, I'll make the motion to tap into the funds from Park Place and Gaffney to fulfill the needs for the rest of the neighborhood associations.
I second it.
Had something to say, Dan? A question?
Oh, yeah. We're going to need about another $120 we need to print for our new signs.
Okay.
They've attract some people, so. Other than that was it.
So are you asking for those additional funds in as well, too?
Yeah.
Okay. Does someone want to make a motion to extend funds for Dan's signs? Okay, thank you.
Sorry, real quick, so do we just need to approve signs so that you can use the money for signs? Because it looks here like you've got enough money in your budget by the books here.
Well, I think with the mailing, do I have an extra $120 to do 4 signs?
This calculated cost, Dan, is including this, you have $1,210 left over after you would do a mailing. And again, that's not exact cost, that's an estimate based off of the contract that we have. If postage goes up in the next month, which I don't predict that it does. But again, I just don't want you to guarantee on this number and then it not be there. But again, you have over $1,000 to be able to work with after your postcard goes out for May.
I believe we're mailing out emails to about 900 people that we're not going to do a direct mailing to.
Not through me. The subscribers that you have for Caulfield is 108. or 129, sorry. You have 129 subscribers.
But the city has, I thought, a list of 900 people that wasn't available to us, but you could send out to.
I can send email notifications about specific neighborhood association meetings, like, hey, just like when you send me a postcard or you send me an agenda, that's the information that I send out to your specific email subscribers through MailChimp. So that's what's going to the 129 people. On top of that, the city does like trail news. It's within there, your neighborhood association meetings. It's also in the e-trail news. I don't know exactly how many subscribers are in the e-trail news, but I can come back next meeting with that information. So I don't know what the total like number is of all of the individuals that we're reaching via email. And again, that will just have, for the e-trail news, it doesn't say the specific agenda information about Caulfield's neighborhood association meeting, but it does notify people, hey, in the month of May, Caulfield is having a neighborhood association meeting at this time, at this place. Check out this website for more information.
I guess what I'm asking for, I guess we need to do a direct mailing, plus I need another $120 to do 4 signs. And the 4 signs probably bring more people in than the actual mailing.
It seems to me that you would have, if it's, the signs are $120, you said?
Yeah.
You would have plenty of money within your budget to be able to do that.
Okay.
So did we need to vote on the previous motion?
I think we need to vote on the previous motion to take the $25.94 out of one of the other neighborhoods. Had a motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
And just to clarify, that's taking out a Park Place and Gaffney Lane to supplement
Yes.
any excess costs for the neighborhood associations that are highlighted who are sending out postcard mailers.
Correct.
And just to remind everybody, that kind of resets July 1st,
Yes, exactly, yeah. Awesome.
Reset.
And summer schedule?
My question for that is the CIC meeting for July, the first week of July. I believe it's the, what's that Monday?
First.
The 1st. And with that being 4th of July weekend, is that a time that the CIC would still like to gather, or is that a meeting that needs to be skipped?
I'll be out of town.
I'll be busy.
I guess that's my question is how many people would show up to the neighborhood association meeting? Does it make sense to have one, or not neighborhood, the CIC meeting? Does it make sense to have one, or does it make sense?
Well,
I think,
how many people are going to be gone? We have 2 people? 2 people be gone, 3 people?
I'll be gone, but I can always
4,
do a
5?
Zoom usually.
Oh, yeah.
Lisa.
6, 7? Well, I think the majority of the people are going to be gone, so I think we should cancel July's meeting for 2024, okay? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
and then the last thing that I have too is the National Night Out. I don't know how involved the neighborhood associations or the CIC was involved in the National Night Out, but Patty Stewart from the police department has brought this up to me, and I brought it up a couple of meetings ago, but I wanted to have more of a direct conversation on who would be interested in being able to table a booth, how involved the neighborhood associations want to be, and being present and involved within the National Night Out.
I think that's the first Tuesday?
It is. It's August 6th. Yeah.
I think in the past,
We had a CIC booth, and that was good,
Yeah?
yeah. A
yeah,
lot of us were there manning it, and
I don't know who set up the booth. I don't know if it's Public Works, but someone usually sets up the booth for us. And we have information, there's a big poster that someone has somewhere of the neighborhoods, and people talk with people as they come through. We have them put a sticker where they're from and try to get them involved in joining and partaking in their neighborhood.
I have all the pens Amy Wilhite had donated.
Okay.
So I still have them for the next booth.
Okay. So would be a show of hands of people who would be willing to help, perhaps?
You know,
If I'm in town.
willing,
Okay.
could you repeat that, willing to help at the CIC booth?
At the CIC booth. I mean, I know McLaughlin has your own booth, probably. Your
Oh,
special-
yeah, but I need to talk to them and see if
Okay.
we want to participate, but if not, then yes, I'll
Okay,
support that.
so that seems great.
All right.
Hands.
Can we
There's
make
enough
it
people?
easy for me and do a vocal around the room, just so I can write everyone's name down?
Okay, oh my gosh, this is getting really serious, then, isn't it? Yeah.
Sarah?
Yes.
Dennis? No, Josh?
I will.
Linda? Stephen, Bob? No, Carla?
A definite maybe.
Definite maybe.
I have a calendar to fill.
Yeah, okay.
Yes,
and
if
Tim.
McLaughlin doesn't do our own.
And Lisa?
Well, if Jan says yes, that's what we're doing.
Does anybody know where that big map is that we?
I do not know. I have a poster.
It's hanging on the wall in our neighborhood office.
Okay,
actually.
awesome.
I thought
There's
it was
two of
down
them.
there.
Yeah. So that's good. And I would be happy to contribute some type of material to be able to distribute out to people, whether it's those sheets with the QR codes or something that maybe we can dive into a little bit deeper at our next meeting. And June is talking about what exactly the CIC wants to distribute out as pamphlets or as just flyers. That's something that I'm more than happy to contribute. And
In the past, we'd had something that would be, to me, like a bookmark. It was just a real quick little thing. I had a map of the neighborhood associations of where they were, and, well, like we have in the trail news, but just very small, and people. So-
if that were the case, then printing costs would probably have to come out of the CIC budget.
Yeah.
Is that something, that's something that we can bring up at the June meeting, because we have time. So I can look into that some more, maybe bring some different options.
I'm sure we're gonna have leftover money in June's.
Yeah, I am sure of that too. Okay, that's all that I have. Thank you.
Roundtable. Sarah, do you want to start?
Let's see, what did we do? We had a meeting. We had our April general membership meeting, and we met at Gardner Middle School, and we actually got in that lovely community room, and that was very nice. We were very well attended at that meeting, which was just lovely. We had Patty Nelson giving us the water update. We had the police department give a nice, they're really good now at breaking down by neighborhood. And we have both Tower Vista and Hillendale. Well, Tower Vista is exclusively residential. Hillendale is not. And our stats look a whole lot worse than Tower Vista's, but you have to take it in context. We have, tomorrow night, we have our steering committee, which is actually kind of being replaced by the courthouse update. It's tomorrow night. If any of you all want to come, you are more than welcome to see where we are on the courthouse build. That's tomorrow night at 7 in the community development room at the, no, I'm not saying
Development
that right.
Services.
Development Service, what is it, 120? What's the room number? You'll find it, there are signs, don't worry, if you want to come. They go through a whole dog and pony show about what they're up to and what's happening and take questions and all that. And I think that's about it. Did I forget anything, Josh?
Nope, not,
Nothing
didn't forget anything
substantial?
from that. I just wanted to make mention that I am a rep to the Chiefs Advisory Committee, and Captain Davis Chief Davis, I'm sorry, would love to have more neighborhood association members on that committee. So if anybody wants to have that, mention it in your neighborhoods and all that, they would love to have a representative from each of the associations and you can contact Patty Stewart over at the police department, and she can get you all the info.
And I have just posted up onto the screen the Clackamas County Courthouse update that Sarah was
Thank
talking about.
you. Look at that.
Dennis, can you?
Yeah, we had our meeting on the 18th at the library, and we continue to have good support with the liaison officer from the fire department, district, and the police department, and we are very happy and appreciative for their attendance and giving us update on what's going on currently within our city. And I like that a lot, and kudos to that initiative. Our president spoke about community enhancement grants, which is out there and available and should be gotten to them by the 15th, I believe. Certainly it's coming up maybe a week away. If you're interested in like doing something particular to your neighborhood, probably would be something to check it out. There is monies available for, whatever a neighborhood might want or request. I guess you have to fill out a form. We talked about updating our bylaws. We talked about the cemetery cleanup for our neighborhood, for the Pioneer Historic Cemetery, which will be the 18th of May. What else did we do? We created a welcome letter for people who was a couple of our neighbors took it upon themselves to create like a welcome letter to be handed out to people who are coming into our neighborhood and becoming new residents. And I thought it was a great idea, and I think that's gotten some traction, and I think it's well received. So I don't know if other neighborhoods do that, but it's a possibility to consider. We discussed summer events. What else did we do? We also talked about the issue related to Elyville and the 2020, 2020, what's
20 is plenty.
20 is plenty. So we talked about that. The difficulty was like we were for it, and we think it's positive along the lines of what was expressed tonight. We thought that we were sort of interfering. We didn't know exactly which area, which streets that we're talking about, how many would be available or need the restricted kind of speed limit. So without any information, we sort of like let it set. We weren't not supporting it, but we were just sort of indifferent to knowing exactly, what we were trying to like vote for or help Elyville with. What else did we deal with? And that was basically it. We ran down some of the reports, and it adjourned. That's it.
So in April, we had a steering committee meeting, and we decided to move our money from credit union to a bank, and
You have money?
47, well, something $7,000 or $8,000.
Goodness gracious.
Most of which is dedicated to the enhancement grant that we have for our park.
Oh, okay.
So, and we'll give it to Jerry when he,
Enhances it.
yes. So we did that. We did talk about the park and the new wagon that has been put there. So somebody found an old covered wagon, and that's been moved to the park. And it's really cool, and we're trying to get some information on what age it is and some more historical information. So that's in flight. It's cool.
I'm gonna come see it.
Yeah. And you were gonna put some more there as soon as you could get it moved?
I'm thinking here he is. I can't hear you.
Okay, he can't hear.
I don't think Jerry can hear you.
Yeah. Okay, our next meeting is May 20th. We're going to have, Willamette CERT give a presentation on emergency preparedness. We have a presentation from the Housing Authority of Clackamas County on Clackamas Heights redevelopment. And an update from our police liaison. So we had another problem that we had too many speakers that wanted to come. What a concept. So we had to put Jerry off until the fall. At one question, we've been trying to put together a party for the Park Place Park grand opening. And we're having trouble trying to figure out how to put it together. And we know that McLaughlin has had community parties. And we'd like to talk to any neighborhood that's done one of these, how they've done it.
Sure, we'd be happy to help. If you want to contact me, we can talk about it.
So you'd be the...
Yeah.
Great.
Bob, anything to add?
I'd just like to mention about the only way we are able to raise funds in Park Place is, other than if we're fortunate enough to get a grant, is we pass around a basket every general meeting and ask for donations. And we get, I think around $30 to $45 a meeting, something like that. So we don't have a popcorn machine or a soda machine.
Carla?
So our next meeting, we are discussing, our steering decided we were gonna do a neighborhood watch, but we're gonna probably mention it at our ice cream social in the summer, just to make sure there's enough people who know about it and are interested. So in the meantime, the steering really wanted to discuss homelessness, because there's so many parks in our neighborhood that are affected by homelessness. And then on top of it, Malala Avenue is such a big thing in our neighborhood because of the parks tying into Malala Avenue. So we're trying to get the police department possibly to discuss that on their experiences more recently. And it's improving, but there's still a lot of activity, especially in the vacant buildings in some of the places in Malala Avenue. A lot of littering and just overall what's been kind of happening, kind of tying to homelessness and dumping. So they wanted to discuss that. So we're going to try to address that, or at least have a neighborhood discussion about it. And then after that, we're having Patty Nelson discuss, obviously, how drinking water infrastructure is going to be impacting Malala Avenue in our neighborhood. And then we're going to also have Hannah come in and talk about Habitat for Humanity. And so that's it. Just as an update, because I'm responding to what was discussed earlier, I had someone reach out to me concerning presenting to TAC about the 20 is plenty. And what they were trying to do is convert some 25-mile-an-hour zones in residential to 20. And the reason being is because of neighborhoods growing and, obviously there's going to be more parking on the streets and infill happening, is that a lot of they've gotten feedback, and TAC has a lot of influence in that as well. The discussion is that they're wanting 25-mile-an-hour zones in neighborhoods going down to 20 is ideal, is the discussion that is going forward. And they're wondering if the neighborhood associations are interested in that. And that's overall where it's at. And John Lewis, like he said, is that they're still having a discussion about it. There's favor of it with TAC, but they want to know what the neighborhood associations think of it. So the person reached out to me to have the neighborhoods associations have a discussion with their neighborhoods about it. And if they were interested in endorsing that, to write a letter to TAC about it. So that was the background.
No.
And did you want to say something about our,
Mine, you covered all of our meeting stuff.
you wanted to do the fundraising thing that you were suggesting for our neighborhood?
Oh, well, we tried to do a 50-50. We're kind of gamblers. And so, and it works, you know? There's only 5 of us or 6 of us, so pass around a hat doesn't work. But if you put in a ticket for 50-50, someone might go home with half the pot. It does work. So, so we're doing 5 and 6 people at a time. We're hitting it hard.
Okay. Dan?
But, you know, maybe at our ice cream social, we'll pass around a hat because we sure pass out a ton of ice cream. Also, one other thing I want to say is has nothing to do with our neighborhood because we've finished, Carla covered it, but I've attended 2 Ivy polls this year. One was the McLaughlin neighborhood, and they were able to promote it, and there's probably 30 people that showed up to that. Hannah had one through our Ivy League at the Kanema Park, and I thought, how do I get on your Facebook? I need to spam you guys, and I didn't know how to get on your Facebook thing to post the flyer. So do you have a Facebook page?
I don't think we do. I don't either.
Yeah, so the only way I got to the, yeah, they did an Ivy cleanup at the old Kanema Park.
Do we have to bring our own soap, or?
It usually just takes nippers, a rake, and a sickle, you know, and then rolling up your sleeves or tucking them in. But anyway, I just didn't know how to contact it. I got a couple people from Kanema, but I think they were through the Parks Association. So, keep in contact with Hannah because there's going to be something coming up in June 22nd. I'm not sure if it's going to be in your hood or not. We got to get a better showing. And they hang him with the treats. So, and there's going to be more of these things that we need to collectively help each other because it's our parks that we're looking at, and Ivy's a killer. Okay, thanks.
Dan?
Well, we had the mayor come and talk again, and boy, she had a lot of questions, and she used up all the time, and a lot of people got some good answers. So they talked about the Beaver Creek and 213 and the flags and people going on the road, and we went down and actually talked to the people, and the people had been going there for years and years and years, kind of took charge, and there's 3 or 4 new groups down there, and they let the new groups not to get out in the middle of the road with their flags and wave them in front of the cars and try not to block them, so see how long that lasts. That's about it.
Tim?
Well, this is Metro enhancement time, so we had a lot of presentations. We had a presentation by the VFW who wants to put up a monument down at the VFW site at their facility. They're basically putting up a monument for specifically for Clackamas County veterans who were in Korea, Vietnam, and the current wars. So that's one of the presentations. We had a guest speaker, Kira Smith from the Greater Oregon City Watershed. Very interesting presentation on all of just the Oregon City watersheds and how they're structured and where all the water comes in and where the water goes out. And so it was very interesting. We had a presentation by Ben James. I don't know if you know who he is. He owns the building across from the elevator called Elevate. And he has got a remodel of his building, has already been approved, it's in process. He wants to build a little patio right as you come out of the elevator on his property, and he is selling bricks to put down on the pavement with your name or whoever you want to do for like $100. He's got a sign down there on his window. It's an interesting concept. It's for his facility, but his belief is that he wants to share it with the entire city. It's not really for him, but that's kind of what his presentation. So that was interesting. Then we had a presentation by Porch Fest. I don't know if you know what Porch Fest is. It's an organization that has been going on for the last couple years. And what they do is on the same day as the McLaughlin neighborhood sales that are go on in August, they have Porch Fest at night where they do they basically have people sign up to give up their porch, their driveway, their backyard for concerts. And they match musicians and performers, whoever it may be, and they'll use your property and your power, and that's all they really need. But it really brings a lot of people in, obviously, the neighborhood sale, but then you have the evenings open for 2 different presentations, an early one and a later one. So last year they had 30 Porch Fest participants, and this year they wanted 50. So really nice presentation. They have a great website. You can go and look in that, but they're looking for people to donate their porch. And that's a great neighborhood for it. Let's see, last thing was we had William from South End visit us and was with us for the entire meeting, and we appreciated him being there, and hopefully it didn't scare him away. And then last, we were going to say 20 is plenty. We discussed it, and the part of our issue with 20 is plenty is our streets are a little thinner, not as wide as some of the streets. So we are really concerned about the speed. We're also concerned about parking because we allow parking on both sides. So when you narrow it down to about less than a lane in some cases, that 20 miles an hour is a big difference for us. Plus, you have people going from 5th to 7th, back and forth, the speedways, and people just blow through there 40, 50 miles an hour. And it's a very heavily pedestrian area. So we did send a letter of support from the neighborhood association because we do believe it would be beneficial, at least for our neighborhood. And as you said, it really depends on where you live, but in our neighborhood, it's really important. So that's, I think that's it.
Adam, finish us off.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, everyone. We have a work session tomorrow. There are a few items on there of note. I will be chairing that meeting as the mayor will be out of town, and so I do expect our meeting length to be cut by about half without her there. Well, we actually have a pretty packed meeting, so...
you know she does listen to this.
So of note, I think, to this group is that we are discussing revisions to the Park Place crossing plan. As you all know, that's been a hot topic recently, and as ICON has withdrawn their application, we felt that it was necessary for us to do a speedy look at how we can amend this. Since it was first adopted, state land use laws have changed significantly. A lot of our local control has been taken away by the state, and so we're trying to figure out the best ways that we can still live up to what the community envisioned with that concept plan while adhering to state law and making sure that there aren't loopholes for developers to try and subvert the will of what the community members made it clear that they would like to see there. And Bob, I appreciate the email earlier this morning and the feedback, and I'm sure that we'll be able to rely on that as we move forward. And as you can understand, this is an issue where time is of the essence. So I think there's a sense of urgency from all of my colleagues on making sure that we can get this moving forward as soon as we can. We heard about this at our last meeting, I believe, but it was just publicized, our 4th of July event, which will be happening this year. It's been a long time since we've had one as a city, and it was one of my priorities to make sure that we got that back up and running, and so I'm really excited. And it just so happened that it fit perfectly with our Concerts in the Park series, and so that's what the event is going to be, is the Concert in the Park and then the laser light show. And so I'm grateful to my colleagues for making sure we got it funded, and now please just help us spread the word, and I'm really looking forward to that event. Lastly, I would greatly appreciate your help in spreading the word. My Youth Advisory Commission students are currently doing a clothing drive specific to high school students. We've heard from the PTA Clothes Closet that they've got a lot of product for their younger students, but a big area where they don't and where it's lacking is for high school students. And so we are actually accepting donations here at City Hall through May 23rd, and there are a couple other locations as well, but this is the most of note, I guess. So if you or someone you know or folks in your neighborhood association would like to donate, then please do so by May 23rd. And that's what I have for tonight. Thank you.
Something else?
Real quick, is that clothes closet going to be accessible? I know it's at Jennings Lodge. Sometimes kids have a hard time getting over there. Can it be accessible here in Oregon City, even though it represents Oregon City?
So
I'll answer that. The PTA Clothes Closet is of Clackamas County. So it's not, they've centered a lot of their audience to Oregon City because they're closer to our area, and Jennings Lodge is a part of the Oregon City School District. So they're closely tied. So they've bopped around to a couple of different locations within the school district, but they're now located at Jennings Lodge permanently. Because of the short time that the students of the Youth Advisory Commission have in order to put on this event, they will be doing the clothing drive until May 23rd, and there are actually 3 drop-off locations for the clothing drive. One here at City Hall, at Jennings Lodge, where the PTA Clothes Closet is run out of, and then one over at Oregon City High School as well. They're going to be working on creating a free shopping event. And that's what the PTA Clothes Closet of Clackamas County is kind of known for. They take these donations. A lot of the time it's school donation boxes and lost and found that gets dropped off over to the closet. And so they have a lot of youth clothes, and they do a lot of clothing, free shopping events where they welcome not just Oregon City members, but everyone from the community. But the event that the Youth Advisory is going to be promoting will be more centered towards Oregon City community specifically. So even though it will be located over at Jennings Lodge, they're really doing a hyper focus on the youth and specifically the high school youth within Oregon City.
Well, thank you for all attending, and we will see you June 3rd.
At 6 p.m. for our work session, an hour before, yeah.
Okay.